When it comes to venues for music, it's hard to find a destination in Boston that consistently engages people of color in significant numbers. But a nonprofit's trying to change that, starting with a festival later this year in Franklin Park for talents in everything from rhythm and blues to spoken word, hip hop, and dance. To tell us about the project and its fundraising campaign is the founder and executive director of the Boston Art and Music Soul Festival, or BAMS Fest, Catherine Morris. Thank you much for being with us, Catherine.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We'll talk about the setting here, Franklin Park. You grew up near this. Talk about why this is the place to go right now.
Well, Franklin Park is 527 acres of green space, and it connects 6 local neighborhoods. And it's been the ground zero for arts, entertainment, culture, recreational programming for decades. However, what has happened, though, is over the last 30 years, there's been a deficit in that programming. People just kind of use it to walk and to engage in sporting outings, and that's fine, but the park has so much more to offer. It is the jewel of Boston. And so being housed in that, one, is paying homage to a woman named Elma Lewis. She has and continues to have this series called Playhouse in the Park, even though she's passed. And it's been able to try to connect local neighborhoods to the arts in the park. But we want to take it a step further. There's a lot of energy around movements, around cultural building, around connecting and convening and creating a sense of belonging. And we want to make sure this festival does that in Franklin Park so that people look forward to going there even after we leave, but also for visitors to the city to leave downtown and come into the neighborhoods that make up what Boston is.
I know there's more to this in Franklin Park, but you've got all this talent here in the city. You've got an audience for that talent. Occasionally they meet, but talk about what's missing.
I think what's missing is that we either have small venues or we have bigger venues, but we don't have a venue for artists to create to be themselves. I think the other thing is that when it comes to promoting events, when it comes to creating this convening, if you will, there's not a consistency. It's either it happened once and you don't hear about it, or it happens in places that people of color just don't traditionally go to.
Well, talk about what happens. Let's say you've got some good performers in hip hop. There are places where they perform occasionally. Maybe they have their followings online. But if you were to give them a bigger platform, something with a higher profile, what would that do to change things?
I think one is it would boost their confidence. It would boost their ability to be on a stage in front of their peers. I think it's different when you go to a different city and yes, you have followers, but there's nothing more proud to be in front of your community and to know that you represent that neighborhood. People feel some kind of way about that. They can brag about that. I think also for any artist, even in hip hop or jazz or spoken word, it's the fact that this city actually celebrates and acknowledges the contributions of those genres. I think oftentimes there are certain genres that continuously get played, that continuously get access to revenue and financial resources and marketing, but when it comes to other genres of music that get stereotyped because of the people that listen to it, they don't necessarily get the access and opportunity to outshine what is either biased towards them or stereotyped towards them.
Well, it's interesting because you have these audiences that are more fragmented, and if you have an event that sort of crosses those barriers, talk about what that would be like.
I think for me, so for the last 3 years, we've done smaller events across the city, being able to break into neighborhoods or different venues that don't traditionally welcome people of color anyway. And I think what that has done is it allows one for our audience to see a neighborhood that may have been perceived as not welcoming people of color, but it does. It's just different generational information. You know, if my parents experienced extreme racism of one certain area, I'm naturally, as the next generation, going to assume I'm not welcome there. It's actually changed. And so for us, doing these events across the city has allowed to break perception of how we perceive different neighborhoods, but also for the small businesses and the artists that are from there, it now encourages collaboration and almost hyper-local tourism, if you will, going into different neighborhoods. And then being able to see, wow, I didn't know this venue even existed. I'm gonna come back here on my own, and that's what we want. We want to encourage local natives, visitors, residents to explore Greater Boston. It has so many great things, but also to the venues that don't necessarily welcome us per se. We always say, give us a chance. You never know. We've basically gone to 10 community spaces across the city, and they've welcomed us all back.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with Catherine Morris from the Boston Art and Music Soul Festival. Catherine, I think the other thing here, I see even beyond what you're doing, the potential for creating these higher profile venues or even more central to downtown. People go and they see Black Panther. You go to the movie theater downtown and you see people that you don't normally see.
Right.
And talk about the possibilities here.
I think when it comes to the perception of Franklin Park and even the work that we do, it's always, oh, you're only for a particular group of people. It's not so much being for a particular group of people, it's the fact that these are the main folks that continuously, through reports and statistics, have been marginalized from arts and music. And so I think with initiatives around Black Panther and social movements, but also even the work that we're doing, I think it's just about providing information and looking at changing the perception of how people view other people. It's not that if I'm listening to hip hop, I act or I'm from a certain neighborhood. That's just what I like. It doesn't mean I would discount jazz or pop or rock. It's just that's my preference. And so that may not look like a Black kid. That might look like someone who might be Jewish or could be Hispanic. It doesn't matter. For us, it's just don't stereotype music because of what you think. Actually talk to the people. You'd be surprised who listens to what, actually. Plus
the education. When you hear hip hop in the context of funk and jazz, you realize this all flows together.
Absolutely. I mean, even for us, so I went to a conference around folk music, and when I was sitting there in front of 25,000 people and listening to the different showcases, I realized that the initiative or the history of folk music is relevant to hip hop. It's really people protesting for a cause, and they do it in a different avenue. So that if it's folk, if it's spoken word, there's still a message about encouraging people to do the right thing or to pursue something that's very passionate to them or change, systematic injustice. So for me, I think when it comes to different styles, we're all connected. Music is a universal language. It's understood by many, and I think practiced by the few that are able to take that initiative. And I think we have a responsibility as consumers to allow for these artists to create and to be themselves and realize that they're human too as well.
Well, you've got a real creative challenge here. You've got a logistical challenge to make sure this all works smoothly. So tell me about the campaign and how people can help.
Yeah, so we have an online campaign, our Indiegogo campaign, and it's really an initiative to help us pay for a lot of different things. With this festival, one thing that's always been near and dear for us is making sure that artists are paid. We don't believe the notion of starving artists. They're human beings, food, water, shelter, you name it. And so this Indiegogo campaign supports supplies and materials for our art zone for everyone. It supports our dance zone that we're having there, where we're doing free dance lessons for the community. We have 2 music main stages, which is unheard of for this festival. So staging, lighting, production, all those funds going towards this Indiegogo campaign will allow us to pay for those things. And regardless if we don't make our goal, which is $50,000, the festival will still happen. It'll just be on a smaller scale, and we'll build out from there.
So I know you're on social media and you've got a website people can check out too?
Yes, visit us at bamsfest.org. That's www.bamsf as in Frank, est.org.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Catherine Morris from the Boston Art and Music Soul Festival. Up ahead, we'll have Pat Flaherty in high school sports.